Hey gang, Uncle Todd and Sonny here, and we are watching the fourth episode of Spider Noir. Now, last week was such a great episode with lots of investigation, the double crosses, the triple crosses. Great. This episode's a little weak, very dialogue heavy. Basically, it is kind of the aftermath of what happened last week. So, ah, now when we left, Silvermane had shot someone else other than Winston, but we didn't know who. Well, we open up here with Kat performing at the nightclub, so it wasn't her. Then we see Silvermane and Ben sitting at a table together, so it wasn't him. Turns out it was the guy that was following Ben throughout last week's episode, Winston's right hand man. They were like this. So, of course, Silvermane killed him too. He gives Ben a bonus and says, I'd like to see you on the payroll. And he's like, I'm just not that big a fan of your retirement plan, i.e., Winston. And he accepts this. Later, when Silvermane's talking with Kat, he demonstrates a great respect for Ben because Ben turned him down, which shows Ben's a lot smarter than most people. And Kat likes that he did. Now, the reason he went to see Kat was he wanted to know why she was at the train station. And she tells him a half truth. She was running away because she was scared. Now, according to her story, Ben thought she was the mole. And so he followed her to the train station. But then Winston, who had been following Ben, showed up and was framing her for his double crossing. He accepts that. Now, let's see. Kat calls Ben's office to set up a meeting, but he's not there. He goes to movies, and he's just wanting to get away from everything after he. Also, Silvermane kept him up drinking for most of the night. Anyways, he gets that taken. He's just getting some downtime. Now, Janet has been teaching Frankie stuff because he needs to know he's a kid. Math. He hates math. You'd think for a hustler, math would be his subject. Anyways, when they get the call, she takes down the address and gives it to Frankie to go find Ben, which he eventually does when Ben gets back home. Kat talks to Ben because they need to get their story straight about what she told Silvermane. But they need somewhere else to go talk, so she takes him to an old theater where it is revealed that the reason she set up Silvermane was back she'd been a waitress, just scraping by, and he heard her sing and set her up in the club, and that's a big singer. Now, the thing about Silvermane is he's not really interested in her being his mistress. His thing is control, having power over others. He really gets into that. Sex isn't that important. So, Kat had the regrettable action of falling in love with a regular guy. I think he was like a plumber or a dentist, something like that. And eventually, they were going to get married. And then he stopped coming around. And if he'd just been scared off by Silvermane, she could have accepted that. Silvermane wanted to make an example of what happens if you try to take what's his, and had the guy rubbed out graphically. So she understood, and she kind of kept to herself until Flint came along, and then she fell in love with Flint, and she wanted to try and kill Silvermane so that the two of them could go off together. Now, Flint's been following her, and he overhears this, and he knows there is no future for them, so he goes back to the one place where he might have a future. He goes back to Silvermane, who's happy to see him, welcomes him back. This new power of his will be of immense use to Silvermane. Well, Silvermane's rather upset. You see, he had told the police chief to come see him because he wants to know why the chief had a raid on his shipment. So he's planning to go talk to him with Flint. Now, while this has been going on, Robbie managed to track down Lonnie again through basically a soup kitchen for vets. And he gets him back to the office where he's just not going to talk. But after dinner, and Janet starts dealing out cards for a card game, which he grudgingly starts playing, they get him to talk, and what comes out is during his time as a POW of the Germans during World War One, they experimented on him. They experimented on a lot of those guys. Now, Ben and Kat eventually end up back at his apartment where, over drinks, he tells her about Ruby. And what happened to Ruby was Ben had put a man away to prison through his detective work. And when the guy got out, he found that Ben had fallen in love with someone. Although he had tried to keep that secret from people. And one night when he was out drinking and having fun, this guy took his revenge on Ben by chaining Ruby to the steering wheel of a car and dumping it in the river. And Ben found out about it too late and tried to save her but couldn't. So his punishment from that guy was he would have to live with the fact he had failed the woman he loved for the rest of his life. And that is partly why he saved Kat. Not because he was atoning, but because he didn't want another death like that on his conscience. Then they hear a news report. There's someone attacking the Diamond District. It must be Flint. She gets up to go, but Ben's like, I'm not going to go there. It's not really my place. So she calls him a coward and leaves. It's not Flint. Because Flint's with Silvermane, who goes to see the mayor and the police chief who are having dinner with their wives. The wives excuse themselves. They know business talk when they see it. And it turns out Silvermane has figured out it was the mayor who called down the raid. He's unhappy with this. He's thinking maybe it's time we had a new mayor because he's the guy that puts mayors in power. And the mayor thinks maybe not this time. Well, just to prove his point, Silvermane has Flint destroy the table they're eating at. And then leaves, saying cryptically to Flint, well, he asked for it, he's gonna get it. Well, the spider shows up at the jewelry district, and the guy robbing the place isn't Flint. It's this other guy who has electric powers. Yeah, their version of Electro. And he is mopping the floor with the spider. Just keeps shocking him. but he keeps running down on power and has to recharge. So the spider, using his webbing, shorts out the power in that neighborhood, and then taunts the guy to keep attacking him until he's all out of juice, and then he smacks him down. Now, he'd called Robbie to meet him there, and Robbie is taking pictures of all this because he's a journalist. The mayor had heard about it, and he shows up. And after the defeat, he runs up and puts his arm around the spider, and Robbie starts taking pictures of that, and he announces to everyone, he and the spider are working together to clean up the city. And the spider's like, no, we're not. Get away from me. But it makes too good a story. Well, when he finally gets back to his apartment, exhausted, and showing the marks of his fight, Kat shows up. She had seen everything, and she's figured it out. And she's being cryptic about what she's figured out. And it's just not getting through to his head. So she does the normal thing that you do in this situation. The Lois Lane act, as you will. She falls out a window. And before she hits, she's caught by his webbing and pulled up. And she says, nice to meet you, Mr. Spider. And then they lay one on each other. You know, tongue and everything. So, kind of a, not as engaging as last week, but a good fight at the end. The last 10-15 minutes, that's the good stuff. All that's just kind of preamble. And man, Kat falls in love with people quite easily, doesn't she? Especially if they've got something extra. And maybe she thinks she can use him. She is sort of an anti-hero, play both sides against the middle kind of character. Yeah, bit of a slow-moving one. It was okay. I liked Janet getting more to do, teaching Frankie how to do math. And he's bored. And then her being the one to figure out how exactly to get Lonnie to talk. It's not by interrogating him as a reporter, but treating him as a human. Eating a meal. Playing cards. To which she wins because she's a bit of a card sharp. Yeah, so okay episode. I'm hoping the action picks up again next week. But all in all, okay. Well, please hit like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.